The topics analyzed in Unit 3 deal with language varieties. You will learn classification of language varieties and get acquainted with levels of variation in English. People differ in the manner in which they speak their native tongue. Language is subject to enormous variation: social, groups, individuals, generations, nations, formal, informal settings, written, oral language. It is a natural occurrence due to cultural and language differences. Sometimes we may label different way of speaking as funny talks or incorrect language. Linguistic variation is central to the study of language use. So what exactly is language variety? Variety or language is known as a set of linguistic items with similar distributions, which means that it's the same language of a group of people, the same system or sounds, grammar, etc. they use and identify as their native language. However, there are some differences that will be explained in this unit. In this graphic, you can see the classification of language variations. These are slang, jargon, argot, standard and non-standard language, accent, dialects, pidgin and Creole languages, and code switching. Let us briefly describe them. Standard and non-standard languages. What do they mean? Standard language refers to mode of usage of most educated speakers of a language and is established as a prestigious form of that language. It is a government language that is taught in schools, universities, and is used in radio, television, and mass media. In other words, it's official language used in a country. This is a formal, grammatically and phonologically correct language. In contrast, non-standard language does not follow the grammar or pronunciation rules of standard language. It is not taught at schools and differs from standard English most significantly at the level of grammar. Language variations are also classified as dialects and accents. Sometimes these two concepts are confused. However, they refer to different aspects of language. Dialect refers to differences in grammar and vocabulary. For example, language spoken in Argentina, Ecuador, Spain is Spanish. However, there are dialectical differences in grammar and vocabulary use. The same can be stated about British American, Australian English. So, dialect can be defined as a form of a language that people speak in a particular part of a country or countries containing some different words and use of grammar. Dialects can be different at social and regional levels. Social dialect refers to social variety of language and it reflects different social conditions of the speakers such as their socioeconomic class, religion, educational level, age, and gender. Regional dialect, as its name suggests, refers to differences found in language according to geographical place of its speakers. It's just one example. Compare how people name the same food in Ecuadorian coast or highlands regions. In contrast, accents refers to differences in pronunciation only. Accent is a part of pronunciation. Accent also helps identify the locality in which its speakers reside, so it is classified as regional and geographical. Regional accent refers to the way people speak in the same country, for example, north or south of the United States, or coast versus mountain region of Ecuador. Geographical accent is much wider. The differences in pronunciation can be noticed in the same language but spoken in other countries. For example, British and American or Australian ways of pronunciation of English are quite different. Accent can also indicate the socioeconomic status of its speakers or social class. In addition, it allows to determine the speaker's first language because most of the speakers produce the same kind of pronunciation deviations. Language variations can be also classified as follows. Jargon. It refers to special words or expressions used by a profession or group that are difficult for others to understand. It is a kind of the technical terminology. For example, military, medical, legal, computer, scientific terminology, and so on. Such terms as flipped learning, term test, flash test, summative formative assessment, TOEFL are examples of educational jargon. Slang is a type of language consisting of very informal words, phrases, and expressions that are not considered standard in the speaker's dialect or language. It is more common in speech and is typically restricted to a particular context or group of people, for example, teenagers. Example of slang: hey, what's up? Cool, a buck, referring to $1, or expressions: give me a ring, meaning call me, crash, meaning to fall asleep or to show up without invitation. Argot, a kind of secret vocabulary peculiar to a particular class or group of people, especially that of an underworld group, used for private communication and identification. For example, criminal argot, pool or card player secret language. Code switching is another variation of language, when speakers change from one manner of speaking to another according to the circumstances in order to give an appropriate impression or adapt the speech depending on who we are talking to and the nature of the content. This is code switching. For example, when we talk to a little child, we will use a very simplified language, or in a conversation with authorities, a boss or director of an enterprise, for example, we will use a very formal language. This deliberate change from one manner or style of speaking to another is called code switching or code choice. Code switching also refers to switch from one language to another, and an example of it is Spanglish. Two more types of language variation represent Pidgin and Creole languages. Pidgin is a simplified language that develops as a means of communication between two or more groups that do not have a language in common. Examples: slaves that were brought to the United States all spoke different languages, and they were forced to learn English, but at a very basic level. Creole, it is also a very simplified language as Pidgin, but it turns into active means of communication of speakers who adopt it as their native language. As an example, children of those black slaves adopted broken English of their parents and made it their first language. Language varieties may differ at several levels, such as syntactic, different use of grammar. Example, American English, do you have something, versus British English, have you got something. Phonological, differences pronunciation, like rhotic and non-rhotic pronunciation, as in American teacher versus British pronunciation teacher. Morphological, word structure. Semantical, word meaning. Example, the former word policeman turned into police officer nowadays due to the fact that women can also have this profession. Thank you very much, dear course participant. I hope this video was helpful for your studies. Good luck!